Okay, so I've been doing a terrible job of documenting this, but this is the banyan project, still in progress. On this side you can see where I started. I started out with, the seam here, which I really like the placement of this seam. It feels elegant and it gives the banyan a shape I really like. Unfortunately, when both of the sides are like that, I only get up to about here, and this is all at a funny angle, and so I wanted to work on that. So what I decided to do was try patching in a panel, piecing in a panel right here to see if I could replicate getting just a little more room. And I think I put too much curve in the panel. You can see how I eased it in back here, right there. And it's got some wrinkling because it really is, I think, a little too deeply curved. I think I could probably cut it just as a literal extension of the front panel, just make the front panel a little bit wider there where it's supposed to meet the back panel, and I think that would probably do it. On the other hand, it moves that seam like significantly further back. Now I know that it's very period to have like funky seams, like an extra panel patched in here. I've seen a lot of people documenting extant garments, and I know Cathy Hay right now is working on a coat that has a very similar shape to this. That's actually where I sort of figured out what needed to happen to change the shape of this front panel to make it work. But the good news is, you can see I haven't cut the neck out properly because I was skittish about making that too short. You can see that I get a front, a straight seam, center front, and I'm a little unsure about the size of this armscye, whether it needs to be maybe just a little smaller. Maybe I cut it a little too deeply, but also I want it to go over my clothes. I mean, this is just over a t-shirt, but so the next thing I'm going to do is try it over over my 18th century uppers, my 18th century clothes, and see if that does it as well, because I like the way this is sitting now. I don't think I even need to modify this back shoulder seam. So let me see. Let me pause this and go. Okay, so here I'm in my latest make, which is this 18th century linen piece that I made. It's a little see-through, please pardon. And one thing I'm noticing about it is that it picked up some, I wore a red cotton sari that was still shedding dye, that I didn't realize was still shedding dye, to sit in a leather chair some time ago. And apparently it rubbed off on the chair, and then the last time I wore this shirt, it rubbed back off on the shirt. So I am definitely going to have to, whoops, I left the banyan out of the room. That's not going to help. Be right back. So anyway, the dye is now transferred back onto the linen shirt. So the linen shirt's going to have to get washed, and I'm going to have to figure out how you take dye off of a leather chair. All right, so the really funny thing is that this fits fine, and this solves the problem that I'm trying to solve on that by curving the front seam. So all the side seams are very simple, as you can see. And the shoulder seam sits, right about where it's supposed to, which is great. This shoulder seam is a little bit further dropped back, but if everything else is fitting, I honestly don't care very much. So the question is, will this fit? And I haven't, of course, dealt with the sleeves yet. That's a whole other kettle of fish. But if I were wearing this, I would want to be able to wear the banyan over it, which is, sort of the way it should be. So, and we can see that, yeah, okay, the armscye is very similar to the waistcoat armscye. That's good. And it looks like it would fit over top. This side's still not modified, remember, so it's just this side that we're checking for fit. What I don't want is I don't want it to seem, oh wait, no, which side is it that I added the panel to? This side, yeah, this side, I don't know, this feels This side fits pretty well, except for this section along the front. And it's once you start to modify the fit on one side, you can't tell anymore. This side is actually giving this side a lot more room. So it's also possible that the easiest solution is to add material in the center back. But I know that's not like technically where the addition should be. I'm just concerned. I know I cut this armscye differently, but I don't want it to fit that differently. Like that doesn't seem right, and it doesn't seem wise. So I think I might need to cut, now that I'm wearing it over the waistcoat, I think I might need to cut the armscye back down a little bit at least. Again, that back panel is just shifted so far over. Not sure quite what to do about that. I may have to get my friend to help me consult on it, because if I can get this much extra room on it, the original panel really fits quite nicely. There's nothing that I really have to complain about in that, except that I might be a little tight sitting down. I might use an extra, ½ inch, but I can definitely put that in the center front. So, so it may be, now that I've done all this messing about, it may be that moving that back panel is not the right answer at all. It may be that with this fit as close as it is already, as long as I basically just want to move the side panel over a little, the back panel, this seam needs to basically, instead of coming through about here on my back, it needs to come through here, which is I think where it should be anyway. So maybe what I do is I just add like that much in the center back. Not sure, but this is really good because I got to see it on top of the waistcoat, which really reveals the problem in the armscye now that I've opened up the back. So this is where we are, and I know I'm, with my hair like this, I look like a mad scientist trying on, a fitted lab coat. But I really do think it's worth messing about to find the right answer. So if this is the proper seating of this piece, and I really think it is, although I could probably trim a little bit off of that armscye, but if this is more or less the proper seating, then what we're really needing to do is skew the back. Trying to find the center back seam here. This would be so much easier if I had two of me. I know that's what dress forms are for, and I realize I decided not to deal with dress form. But yeah, I think if I can sort of steal some, if I can just add some to the center back, that may solve this whole mess without having to patch in another panel. And this is a lining, right? This is muslin. The other one, the original try, was linen, which is a little bit less sturdy and a little bit harder to fit. But I do think that once if I add like an inch or two, I think. I'm getting really frustrated with this project. I really just want it to fit. But I want it to fit, and I want it to fit well enough that I want to make more than one. So, and the reason I was confused before is because the ideal way to do this kind of fitting try-on thing is with the seams sticking out so that you can pin them down if you need to, although I think I'm more likely to need to clip them open than pin them down. Of course, everything's now twisted. But there we go. Okay. So yeah, so now we can see that when I flip it around and that thing is on the right, it's clearly something's not right about the armscye at this point. But on this side, where it's better fitted, I do feel like that's coming quite close to the shape we're looking for. And so it may just be a matter of making sure I can shift that center back seam over a couple of inches. Anyway, so I guess there's going to be another iteration, or at least I'm going to pull out the patch that I put in and put in a different patch in the middle and see if that gives me the shape that I want. And we'll go from there.